All right. So I'm really, really excited. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I am the founder of Restful Sleep MD, and just really excited today to have my friend, Dr. Megan Melo here and we're going to be talking about a really, really important topic. So Dr. Melo, I'll have you just introduce yourself and then we'll hit it off.
Sounds good. So yes, I'm Dr. Megan Melo. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician in Seattle, Washington, as well as a certified life coach. And I work primarily with women physicians on issues around burnout, but sort of burnout from the lens of struggles with boundaries and perfectionism and people pleasing, and how can we work on, addressing those habits in order to feel more fulfilled, more rested, to have that better balance that we're all looking for.
Love it, love it. I'm just checking to make sure we are live. I believe we are.
Looks like it. Struggles with balance.
Awesome. Yes, we are. There we go. All right. So tell us just a little bit about why boundaries. Why do you think these are just important tools to have, or more like just important to have them as part of our lifestyle, really?
Yeah, I mean, I, like many, people who grew up socialized as women, didn't think boundaries were for me. I sort of, saw myself as this person who was always giving, always serving, and, got me really far. It allowed me to, have all these accolades and, of course, perfectionism and people pleasing in there as well. And, got it into medical school and all these kinds of achievements. And the farther we go, the less willing we are to have boundaries in place, the more likely we are to be feeling chronically frustrated, exhausted, overwhelmed, to really struggle with any kind of self-care, and especially seeing self-care as something that's probably selfish. And therefore, thinking that boundaries are just wrong. Boundaries are for other people. They're not for me. I can't have them, is a common, mindset. And, so I was very much in that place, especially through the early years of my career in medicine. And, throw in a couple of kids and, all the normal sort of life stresses. And I just felt like I was drowning. A few years back, it was about 5 years ago now, I arrived at this period that just felt really dark, and I knew that I needed help. And it was around that time that I first started reading the works of Brené Brown, who you may know is a wonderful qualitative researcher who does studies on human emotions and affects and shame and boundaries. And she writes about boundaries, this wonderful, sort of paradigm, which is the relationship between boundaries, integrity, and generosity. So what boundaries need to be in place for me to stay within my integrity, making the most generous assumptions of other people? And, when we really think about the cost of having no boundaries, is really that chronic resentment and frustration that builds up when we feel like people are always coming at us with their needs and never trying to help.
Gosh, that's a quotable. The cost of boundaries is too high. It is just the impact that it has on every aspect of our lives. And one of the things you just mentioned is the resentment. And it's incredible because that resentment is so subtle, right? And then it's compounded by guilt that you feel the resentments.
Absolutely.
And the shame. And it's just so negative. And I just feel like for me, and just the work that I do as well, and the women that I work with, and just that struggle with really no margins, no white space, no boundaries, and then trying to rest because we're exhausted. And then on top of that, the anger and the bitterness we're going into bed with. And then we're wondering why our minds don't shut down. And, it's like we're in this just really, like you said, dark place. And so where do we even start when it comes to this? Like, where do you start, especially if you're, if you're someone like me who's a recovering people pleaser? Like, so it's like all this,
We're all in recovery.
all these people that are relying on me, like I am the savior of the world, right? Like, what am I supposed to let go of? How do we even start to create that while remaining true to ourselves?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different angles that I think it's important to consider here. So one is that generosity piece. When we're constantly sort of in that resentful place, feeling frustrated, feeling undervalued, and then just as you mentioned, we have this guilt and shame about, I must be a terrible person because I'm mad at the family who was late, for their appointment, or I yelled at my kids, or, any number of other things, right? The guilt just, kind of piles onto us. When we can see boundaries as a tool for helping us to be more generous, for helping us to just accept situations as they are, right? To assume that people are doing the best that they can, even if they show up and you're full of judgment about how they're showing up, you can just accept, yeah, they're late. Yeah, they always have a hard time getting here on time. Okay, well, that means that I'm going to have to adjust my expectations and just know that I'm not going to be able to do as much as I would like to do, for the visit, for example. So trying to untangle that sort of mindset piece around the generosity, kindness aspect, so that we don't see boundaries as this awful selfish thing, but really as necessary for, our ability to keep caregiving for people. But then also to use that nagging sort of frustration, resentment piece as kind of the bellwether of like, oh, okay, I'm feeling it again. Like, where's the opportunity for a boundary here? I use that a lot with people of, okay, I'm feeling, this is the same frustration I have every night at bedtime, for the kids. Like, what is going on there? Where could I be putting a boundary in place for myself that allows me to come into bedtime, with the kids feeling, more generous, less like yelling, asking for a friend here. So, kind of the mindset piece around seeing boundaries as the more generous option for really a lifetime of helping others, and using that frustration or resentment as like a sign of like, okay, there's probably a boundary that I could be setting here, and I need to think about what it might be. Like, how am I going to get started?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So really, it sounds like when naming that emotion, just put a name to it. I feel resentment. And then kind of trace it back. Where is this coming from? And then making that shift of, okay, this may be an area where I probably need to set boundaries. And then how do I set boundaries for that? And I think that's incredible. Really, really digging down to the bottom of it. That's awesome. Now, what kind of boundaries are we supposed to set? Because I'm hearing, for me, we'll go into a little bit about how we could set it around like our sleep, our kids, bedtime, family, because those dynamics in the evening, when everybody's exhausted, when moms are stretched and spent completely, I really can't deal with it, really. So what are the different types?
Yeah, I'll tell you some different scenarios that I see really commonly. So again, I work with primarily with women physicians, and they might be the go-to person for all the nursing staff who have questions about things, even when they have a question about a patient of somebody else's. And that physician or provider is there in the building, but they still come to you first because you're the nice one, because you're the one who can be interrupted. You don't yell at them, you make it easy for them. But meanwhile, internally, you're feeling so frustrated because you can't get any work done. So, being able to say, I'd love to be able to answer your question, but so-and-so is the better person. if you cannot get an answer from them, you can come back to me during, the lunch hour or something, just setting a very clear thing. You're willing to help them, but you shouldn't be the first stop. Similarly, especially if your clinic doesn't have, like a late patient policy, if you're constantly getting sort of knocks on the door about anything really, setting boundaries with your staff, like it's okay if there's an emergency to pull me out of a room. An emergency involves, breathing issues or bleeding or something like that. Be very clear. It is not okay to knock on the door and pull me out for an emergency refill of a chronic medication that somebody forgot to put in. That's not an actual urgent situation. And I don't want it to be treated as such, don't, like, let me know, but not in the moment.
Gosh. Yes.
Kind of simple, straightforward, for people who work, fee for service and, they're really dependent on, RVU base, in order to get paid. They might need to set a boundary around, making more, billable encounters, not being willing to just call every single patient after, at the end of the clinic day, and have a 15-minute discussion with all the patients about all the labs. You might need to set a boundary and say, I'd love to go over these labs, but we're going to need to do some work on it. And so let's make an appointment. Let's have a telehealth visit. Let's have a, some kind of planned encounter so that it's on the schedule, it fits into your work, and you're getting reimbursed for the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. No, that is so true. And I feel like this is really applicable to pretty much all spheres of life, because some of my audience are not even in the medical field, but even at work, like if you're like the constant go-to person, yes, every year you get the award for, all that, but
the nice one.
Yes, and you have all the, you get all those accolades, but if it's leaving you drained and exhausted, it's time to, we're not saying suddenly switch and become this mean person, but it's really starting to set those things in place where people know that you do have those boundaries. And I love the piece about like the emergency, because I also recommend that for my kid, for my moms really, and their kids who are showing up every 2 minutes about a bathroom, water.
My 7-year-old runs past his dad right to mom.
It's the same exactly. So
Mom, I need more cottage cheese.
And sometimes even, Dad, where's mom? Okay, mom, I need more cottage cheese. Exactly. And it's 8 p.m., 9 p.m. and everybody's exhausted. So it's really saying we have to, and sometimes I'll use things like bedtime passes where you get 2 passes. So you better use them wisely. Maybe a bathroom is something you would consider worth using it for. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like setting those things in place, I think it's really applicable across board. And I feel like you might initially get a pushback, but after a while, people will embrace it because you become this calmer version of yourself. And that when you're showing up to do that task or whatever you're being asked to do, you're truly now doing it, from a better place, right?
Yeah. And you think about, so, there's a saying, clear is kind, unclear is unkind, right? So with the bedtime passes, right? If I have a clear system and I know that, yes, I can use 1 pass for the bathroom and I can use 1 pass for 1 more hug from mom, or something like that.
Yes.
And then I need to stay in bed, I can adjust to that, right? And I can know that if I get out of bed again, that the consequence is mom ignores me or, whatever, mom's busy, whatever's going on. When it's more the situation where the kid is, in and out of their room. And, sometimes mom is gentle and, okay, honey, it's time to go back to bed. I love you too. And sometimes mom is yelling, get in your room, right?
Yes.
And the kids don't know what to expect, and they're kind of on edge too. And you're feeling bad. Like it's just a no-win situation,
Yeah.
right? So tolerating the discomfort of, setting and maintaining boundaries is so much better than stewing in the chronic frustration and resentment that often comes with having no boundaries, right? Yes, it's uncomfortable and more uncomfortable early on when you're just getting used to it, of course.
Yes.
But it really creates a better system for everyone. It allows you to show up, as the person that you want to be in the settings that you are. So whether you're a parent or, no matter what kind of job you're doing, just allows you to show up the way you want to show up.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's another quotable quote. Okay. Claire is kind, not Claire is unkind. And setting boundaries is the kinder option, because if you think about it, like your child, for instance, they're like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna try. It's like they're like in a casino.
They're
Like, let's
pulling
try. We never know.
It's the slot
We never
machine.
know. Yeah, the slot machine. Let's try. Okay, we never know. We don't know. So it's unfair on them too, right? Is it, do I go 5 times and then she gets really frustrated and she gives in? Or, so I think really, again, it's applicable at work, it's applicable at home. And how about boundaries with ourselves? Is that a thing? How do we go
Absolutely,
about
that's the
that?
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that comes up, where, imagine we've gone through our day, right? And we've had no boundaries with people. And, we often, maybe had some coffee in the morning and, a lot of us would work through lunch, what's lunch? We don't know what that is, right? And come home and maybe, get some dinner and get the kids to bed. And at the end of the day, we are exhausted and frustrated and any number of other feelings. And we don't like feeling that way. So what do? We go raid the Halloween candy. We hop on Netflix or Instagram, or, for some people, it's a couple glasses of wine every night. We start doing things to kind of numb away those negative emotions.
Yeah.
And, and then we, go to bed and we wake up the next day, we're still tired. We're still probably grumpy. We're kind of mad at ourselves because we didn't exercise. We didn't do that stretching meditation thing we were going to do, at the end of the night.
Yeah.
We haven't really, kept up with ourselves because we have been putting other people first all day. Right. And, so I think the boundaries with ourselves is really leaning into the self-care and seeing self-care as the way, when I take care of myself, when I exercise, when I make sure that I eat and, some coffee or, like drink water, like when I do those things, when I have some white space, then I show up better as the person I want to be for others. And, I create a sustainable existence for myself, right? I'm not pouring from an empty cup. I fill my cup first and then go and serve the others.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's leaning into, that's where, sometimes we hear about self-care and sometimes it gets a bad rap because it's like, in what context, right? It's not just about, taking this 2-week or 1-week vacation or weekend with the girl. It's beyond that. It's really taking time, one, to sometimes process those emotions, go through, find healthy options to replenish yourself. And I get into that a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, with a lot of high achieving women who have again gone and they're so spent and we're looking for that quick fix. It's the glass of wine, it's the ice cream in front of one Netflix show that becomes the entire series, and it's 12 midnight, and now we're like pissed off at ourselves, pissed off at the world.
Tomorrow's already a bad day.
Tomorrow's already a bad day, and it's not even and so really being able to set boundaries with ourselves to make sure that, yes, you can watch the Netflix show if that's what fills your cup. Yes, you can scroll on Instagram if that's what fills your cup, but be true that we're not using it to numb ourselves from really dealing with the root cause, which is
Yeah.
really setting those boundaries in place. This has been incredible, by the way, because we've really gone through how sort of more of a holistic view of what these boundaries are. And it's with ourselves, with our families and those we love, with our community and those we serve. And I think it really does help us become the better, kinder versions of ourselves that our world needs. Plus, you get to sleep better because you did the best you could without burning yourself on both ends of the candle, right?
Yeah.
So what final words do you have for us? And where can we find you? I have women out there who are ready and let's go. How can we work with you?
Yeah. I mean, I really see that for so many, and again, women is primarily the group that I see this in, not that it doesn't exist in men, but, for so many of us who are or have experienced burnout, it's really this relationship between boundaries and perfectionism and people pleasing that we need to address. Like, no matter what happens with our work environments, we talk about burnout in medicine all the time and the terrible systems and blah, blah, blah. We could talk a lot about that. But even if that's true, until we are looking at this piece of it and how we are able to take care of ourselves and, kind of learn to say no and learn, where is it okay to do good enough work? Like, our charts, for example, we just need them to be good enough. We don't need A+, right? When we can come to, this work, we will heal our burnout. And I think, again, that's true beyond medicine, that's applicable to, moms who are burned out and other caregivers and other caring professionals, therapists, nurses. We could throw a lot of people into that group, but, it's really about looking at these internal systems that we have, which of course is the much less sexy work than, screaming for the system to change. Systems need to change, but we got to take care of ourselves. It's just such an important message. And then, where can people find me? So I do this work one-on-one as well as in a group program with women physicians. The one-on-one work is not exclusive to women physicians, but the group is. For the one-on-one work, I currently have a 6-session package of work really tuned around boundaries, like really helping women hone in one-on-one with me and, get more clear on what they want to do. And then for the group work, I run a group for women physicians called Healing Perfectionism in Physicians. And we really tackle perfectionism and burnout and boundaries and people pleasing. And we use Brené Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection, which is just a wonderful book where she really highlights the things that we want for wholehearted living: gratitude, joy, self-compassion, rest, play. But we have to also let go of perfectionism and scarcity and people pleasing along the way. And so it's really a quite amazing bit of work to do, and to do it in community with other women physicians. So if people want to find out more about that, they can go to my website at www.healthierforgood.com, and I've got links to get on the wait list for the group program or to work with me one-on-one.
Perfect. And I'll put that link in the comments. Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Melo. I hope I'm sure this has helped tons of you out there, and really excited that we got to do this. I think really the work starts with us, right? It does start with us. It starts with please taking care of yourself, because you literally cannot pour out of an empty cup. It's not just cliche. Yeah. And so good seeing you. It was good having you.
I'm so glad we made the time today.
I know. And I think we did it right. We're online, so it's all good. All right. Take care, okay? Bye, everyone.
Bye.